Hello students, and welcome to the CompTIA Tech Plus exam course brought to you by Third Level Technology. I am your instructor, Jim Herbie. In this episode, we're going to begin Module 4 in the exam objectives, which covers software development. This episode will discuss Section 4.1, Programming Languages. Let's begin.
The first category of programming languages we're going to cover are interpreted languages. Interpreted languages are the most common type that you will see in your modern programming and coding. Interpreted languages are a category of programming languages that we use to execute our program code in sequential order. When you create a code program, a sequential order of lines of code, and an interpreted language will be a programming type that will execute each command within your program line by line in sequential order. There are two different types, markup languages and scripting languages. We're going to discuss scripting languages first. Scripting languages are those that we use to create programs that will automate the computing tasks within our network environments. One common example of a script would be when a user authenticates to a website or platform, where you are required to enter in a username and password. A scripting language is one that can take the login credentials, validate them, and then create the different access parameters that the user will have on the network. These will be the types of applications you can access, files you can view and download, and others. Scripting is a very important feature in programming because it eliminates the need for a developer or a programmer to manually execute all of the lines of code. Scripting uses very basic syntax when we create our commands. It's very common to see very simple one- or two-word commands that will give our programs the next step in the sequence of scripts. We use scripting for things such as authentication and controlling the way that our network devices perform. We use scripting for controlling things such as printers, storage devices, and servers. One element of scripting languages is abstraction. Abstraction is when the programmer will include within the code certain types of details about the types of variables that are used in the code, the amount of data storage used when the program is running, as well as the amount of memory that will be used as it is being executed. Some common scripting languages you will see would include Python, JavaScript, and Ruby. The second type of interpreted languages are markup languages. Markup languages are programming code that uses an element called tags, are ways that we can identify specific elements and sections within our program code. Markup languages can be created within plain text files. This is very helpful because we can use any standard text editor to create a markup language code. There are two types of markup languages that are very common: HTML and XML. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It is the programming language we use to create web pages. With HTML, we use tags to define the different sections and headers that you will see when you view a web page. In an HTML code program, you can see tags such as title, body, and others that allows you to define the text that you want to appear within each section. We call each section an element. XML stands for Extensible Markup Language. XML is a markup language that allows our coders and programmers to create their own custom page tags. Within HTML, you have standardized tags such as title, body, header, and others. In XML, our programmers can create their own customized tags for the different sections that will appear on the screen when the code is run. So we discussed interpreted languages. You want to be aware of scripting languages and markup languages. Now we're going to contrast those with compiled languages. Compiled languages are programming code that we use to create instructions that will need to be translated into readable machine code. These are languages that are typically older and sometimes legacy code programs that we use in older machine and legacy environments. A compiled language requires the code to go through a translation process through a compiler. A compiler is a programming language translator. It allows us to take the code that we create and translate it into executable commands that can be used in a more modern network and programming setting. One advantage to compiled languages are that they execute faster than interpreted. The reason for this is because any time is before the code is run in a compiled language, it's already been translated into a format that is readable by the computer machine. With interpreted languages, all of the code is executed line by line. So the one advantage is a quicker processing time. Some common compiled languages you will see include C and C++, Pascal, and Fortran. Our next programming language type is a query language. Query languages are programming code that we use with our databases. Remember, a database is going to be a location where we will store data in a format called tables. And within a query language, we can create, read, update, and delete all of the different records within a database. We call this the CRUD format, C-R-U-D, create, read, update, and delete. Creating is when we establish a new record that will appear within a database table. Read is the ability to view records in the table. Updating is modifying the data contained within. And deleting is eliminating or removing a specific record. Within a query language, the most common is SQL, S-Q-L. This is the structured query language. It is the programming language we use in our relational databases. A relational database is one that will allow us to find correlations or relationships between records in separate tables within the database. Let me give you a very simple example. Let's say within your organization you have a database that keeps records of all of the individuals in your IT department. One table will display all of the individuals and their job title. Another table will show the different IT job positions in your department and the corresponding salary. In a relational database, we could do searches that can return records based on our search criteria. So if I wanted to do a search in our database to list all of the individuals that make at least $50,000 in compensation, when I do the search, it will take a look at the two different tables, the individuals in their position, as well as the table that lists salaries. And it will return a search result that will match the two different search criteria that I asked. This is an example of a relational database. Within relational databases, we have data definition and data manipulation. Data definition, sometimes called DDL, is when we use a query language to create or delete tables within a database. Data manipulation, or DML, is when we use a query language to search the tables within a database or to update the data that is stored within. You may also see non-relational databases. These will be a database that uses any type of query language that is not SQL. And lastly, we're going to discuss assembly languages. Assembly languages are programming code that we use for 32-bit processors and applications. Assembly languages will share common coding instructions across different applications and platforms. This is because our 32-bit processors commonly had the same type of format and hardware contained within. So we could use an assembly language to create code that could be executed in different types of 32-bit environments. While there are some assembly languages that can operate within 64-bit environments, it is commonly specific to 32-bit. When using assembly languages, we have the ability to create common command operations. This is where we can create code that can be executed across different 32-bit platforms. Some common assembly languages you will see include C, C++, x86, and ARM, ARM. ARM is an assembly language used in our 32-bit and older mobile devices.
That will conclude our discussion of Section 4.1 Programming Languages. In our next episode, we will move on to Section 4.2 in the objectives and discuss data types. We thank you again for following along in the episodes in the course and wish you best of luck in your studies. Enjoy the rest of your day.